Hey guys, by a show of hands, I want to know something. I want to know how many of you have fallen asleep in church. How many of you have ever dozed off in the middle of a church service? Raise your hand. Okay, I see that hand. I see that hand over there. I'm really not surprised. I see that hand. Okay, all right. And me too. I have to admit, I have fallen asleep in church several times, even lately. Okay, and I remember one time when I was about 16, it was a Sunday night service, and there were only about like 12 people there, and I fell full on asleep and sitting in one of the pews, and I'm snoring and I'm slobbering, stuff is running down my face, and my mom's up front. I'm sitting by myself in the back. My mom's up front. She gets this deacon who weighed about 372 pounds to come over and wake me up, and he woke me up by stepping on my foot. God bless him. And everybody thought I had a religious experience because all of a sudden I hop up and I'm like, and it was crazy. We've all fallen asleep in church, okay? We have. I mean, got to be honest. Now, there's a story in the Bible that I love because it's a liberating story. It's one of those stories that just makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. And it's in Acts chapter 20, and it's starting in verse 9. And here's what I want you to do. I want you just to imagine that you're in this story. I want you just to imagine that you're a part of what's going on here. And here it is. And this is a guy named Luke. He's written the book of Acts, and he's traveling with Paul, and he's describing what's going on. We're in an upstairs room with the gentle light and the shadows cast by several lamps. Paul is carrying on an extended dialogue with the believers, taking advantage of every moment since we plan to leave at first light. The conversation stretches on until midnight. A young fellow named Eutychus, seeking some fresh air, moves to an open window. Paul keeps on talking. Eutychus perches in the open window itself. Paul keeps talking. Eutychus drifts off to sleep. Paul continues talking until Eutychus, now overcome by deep sleep, drops out of the window and falls 3 stories to the ground, where he's found dead. Paul joins us downstairs, bends over, and takes Eutychus in his arms. And then he says this, it's okay, he's alive again. So the kid is resurrected. Then Paul goes back upstairs, celebrates the breaking of bread, and just as you might guess, keeps on conversing until first light. Then he leaves. I should add that Eutychus had been taken home long before his friends, more than just a little relieved that the boy was alive. Okay, so here's Eutychus, just this young cat, and he's having trouble staying awake, so he goes to a window, sits in the window just to get a little fresh air, and Paul keeps talking. So Eutychus falls asleep, and it's a deep sleep. I mean, there's slobber and snoring involved, and he falls out the window, and he dies. That's a sad story. Wow. What killed you? I fell asleep in church. That's a really strong moral lesson there. So Paul goes downstairs, he raises the kid from the dead, and then Paul goes back and keeps preaching. He doesn't get the hint, okay? If you preach long enough where it starts killing people, you probably should stop. It's time to wrap it up. But he didn't, okay? He just keeps on. Now, I love this story for no other reason than this. It makes me feel a lot better about myself because I've been on both ends. I have fallen asleep in church, and I have caused people to fall asleep in church. Both, and so I read this story, and I think, this is cool. And also, this story is great because it just proves to us that God has a sense of humor. He realizes we're human. He realizes that there are times when we're going to do things like fall asleep in church. And he didn't have to include this in the Bible, but he did. So be encouraged. God bless you guys. Giddy up!